This is the Cover 3 Tailgate. And welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fernelli. That's Danny Cannell. That's Bud Elliott. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and everywhere you get your podcasts on demand. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash that like, and come and join us in the chat, a.k.a. the Cover 3 Tailgate. We have some notes. Big day of spring games. So some thoughts on Ohio State, Penn State, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, LSU, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Miami, Utah, and yes, UCF too. Nice. Thank you, bud. There we go. We'll be giving the Knights some love right here before we get out of here. But we are going to start with the event that is happening this week that has the entire college football world abuzz, and that is that the transfer portal will be opening tomorrow. I thought it was opening today. Weren't we always saying 15th through the 30th? How did we get this? Did college football decide everybody needs a day to get like the Masters hangover out of their system?
They got to make sure all these players getting paid or paying their taxes is what they need to make sure.
Yeah.
And considered the financial tax implications of NIL and making sure that you get past April 15th. Yeah, happy tax day to all celebrate.
A bunch of kids right now are learning what W-2s and 1099s are for the first time in their lives.
That you guys, stunner.
I don't know if you guys have been approached about this yet, but are you guys, any of you working with me tomorrow on the Portal Day winners and losers segment that's going to be on CBS Sports HQ? Anyone on that one?
Man, I wish I was.
Know who's won and who's lost. I don't know if many of these guys will be landed yet. I mean, are we expecting, because we are treating this like free agency in the NFL where it's just like deals announced left and right. I don't know if there's going to be that many deals announced tomorrow by 12:20.
Gosh, I wish I was invited to be on that segment with you.
I'm handling the some YouTube chat with the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. So from 11 to 12.
I'll be watching the Champions League.
No, hey, everyone's involved in CBS properties. We love to hear it.
That's right.
Yeah, 24/7 Sports is going to blow it out. There'll be live blogs going, live chats, as Bud just mentioned right there. And Danny, I think you're right that we're not going to be able to have winners and losers with deals set. I think that what you're going for winners and losers is mostly trying to avoid a loser. Like the only thing that I think you're going to get at this point in the cycle is announcements of players entering the portal, to which we won't know where they're going for the winner, but we certainly know that it can get very concerning for the players that they're leaving at this point. I feel like we're starting to recognize the shopping list, right? We're starting to understand by the way a lot of these coaches are talking, by the way that some of the reporting around the portal has been going. We're starting to understand that, look, all the big dogs want a defensive tackle. Like, hi, are you 295 pounds? Do you have decent size? There's an NIL bag for you. No experience necessary. You just need to be 295 pounds with some amount of skill when it comes to being an interior defensive lineman, because guess what? What are we talking? Like Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, like Auburn. Everyone with a war chest is going to be looking for a defensive tackle.
But Brian Kelly just straight up said it, didn't he?
Yeah.
Brian Kelly was like just saying, yeah, we need to get a defensive tackle in the transfer portal.
Yes.
He basically said, like, that's the only position we're really going after.
Yeah.
But if all these, like, all right, there's a couple of things I want to hit this, because again, we are not going to have a lot of news here, but also I don't think the average college football fan knows about this SEC rule.
How long does that last?
So in the winter window, you can go from an SEC school to an SEC school, but the conference bylaws restrict intra-conference transfers from one SEC school to another SEC school in the spring window. And it's the only place that we've got this. I mean, but am I off on that?
No, I think it's pretty smart for the SEC because it makes sure like you don't have any players leaving your like it basically prevents the infighting, right? From schools trying to poach each other post spring.
But what about potentially getting poached from the only other suitors, which could be from outside the SEC? Then you're losing the talent. They're just not worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they're like, hey, our bags are better than the Big Ten or the ACC. Like anybody we really want to keep, we're going to keep.
Wow.
I don't know how much longer that's going to be the case.
Yeah, and this is because I was thinking about Texas, because Texas has been plucking off SEC rosters ever since Steve Sarkisian got there, and now they're an SEC team. They can't do it anymore. So where are the defensive linemen going to come from if all these SEC schools need them, and you can't get them from other SEC schools?
Big Ten schools that don't have their bags right.
100%.
Like I think we will see 5 or 6 good defensive tackles leave the Big Ten.
Wow. What are they? All right, Bud, what do you think?
Names. I want names.
Yeah.
I mean, like California schools, like if they don't got their money right, better be watching that one. Like, does everybody in Michigan, not the Michigan guys, but like, how's Michigan State looking, right? Like Indiana, we already know Philip Beatty. I want to see just how right the Big Ten has their money.
What are some of the other positions where you think that we're going to see a lot of activity, especially here in this first week?
Receiver.
Yeah, and probably QB.
You think so?
I mean, this is typically the time where that happens.
Right. I was trying to think about how many. I don't think that there are a lot of power conference schools where they feel like they need to go in and get a starter quarterback. I think that there's probably a lot. I mean, we're going to talk about Alabama a little bit later. I would not be, I do not have odds. I do not have sourcing. If Ty Simpson enters the transfer portal, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Ty Simpson's in the transfer portal. And when a school lands Ty Simpson, they're not going to be shooting off fireworks saying, we got our QB1. You're hoping that somebody who was once a 5-star prospect is going to be able to add some competitive depth. I don't know if we'll see any dominoes in that at the quarterback position in that sense, just because I'm just not sure. Unless, what if Noah Fafita jumps in?
Is he a package deal with McMillan?
Yeah, so. Big Will Backus over at CBSSports.com, he put together a story that was transfer portal nightmare scenarios. Yes, great content. Hey, listen.
Glad I did not draw the straw to write that one. Okay.
Hey, listen. I think that it's great content idea. And one of them was, hey, when you were Arizona, you were so happy that you were able to get Fafita and McMillan to commit to the new coaching staff. Well, I mean, Damian Martinez was committed to Oregon State too, and the new coaching staff until he wasn't. And so Will was, making that argument. It's like, if you want to talk about a nightmare scenario, all the goodwill from Arizona in the beginning of the Brent Brennan era, if all of a sudden you lose your star quarterback, star wide receiver to the portal, things could be slipping out of control pretty quickly.
I don't see that happening though. Like, it's a fun nightmare scenario to ponder, but I don't know. I mean, McMillan, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's going to get a bunch of money thrown at him. Will he take it? I don't know. I think it's possible, because we were just saying wide receiver is going to be something people want. He's a pretty damn good wide receiver. So if SEC and Big Ten schools come calling, maybe he goes. But I'm sure they were already calling in the winter when he didn't have a head coach and he's stuck around. So I don't know. He's
really tight with Fafita. So I do wonder if like those two aren't just kind of at the hip, right? So I don't know. I'm not convinced he'll go anywhere.
Yeah, right. I mean, I was trying to think about who would be a quarterback that could set something off, right? Really generate a lot of interest. Is there another quarterback I'm not thinking of that could potentially make things a little bit spicy?
Hennigan, Rocco Becht.
I had Kyron Drones, who I had somebody say he looked great, for Virginia Tech. He's young, promising. Like, if there's some young ones like Rocco Becht.
Like, that's the thing with Drones. Like, the rumor from all these message boards was LSU, but Nussmeier looked pretty damn good. Yeah. And LSU has clearly paid for Nussmeier 2 years in a row to be a backup. He didn't transfer they promoted the quarterback coach to be the OC, who was very high on Nuss. Like I don't see the drones LSU thing happening.
Yeah, like
but
I
where we
like
go-
drones. I like drones a lot, but LSU doesn't make sense to me as a target for him or a
Right.
destination. So I mean, maybe somebody else comes sweeping in for him, but it just the LSU chatter just I don't get it.
Vatek seems to have something going too. Like their NILs like doesn't suck. They got a lot of guys, coming back together. Their retention, I'm not saying they're out there like hunting in the portal, but their retention has been pretty good. So I'm kind of chalking this up as not a thing. But maybe I'll regret that. I don't know.
I mean, we got 2 weeks. So, I mean, that's the thing is it's going to come and it's going to go. And if Kyron Jones can make it May 1st on Virginia Tech's roster, then we still consider Virginia Tech as one of those like top 5-6 teams there in the ACC heading into the season. So it's a big one to watch if you're a Hokie fan.
Michigan would be one that, depending on how they really feel about Orgy, could, like, you don't have to win the league, you don't have to make the playoff, but you can't go 7-5.
Yeah, you don't want to have a big drop off.
Right, exactly. So if you don't actually have confidence in Orgy, then you may need to go get somebody, because they have Jack Tuttle, but he's been hurt. So I think you either need him to get healthy to where you at least have some sort of knowable floor, or you need to go get somebody. But if you go get a guy who's really more of a passing quarterback, you need to get some receivers. I believe they only had 3 scholarship receivers this spring, which is pretty low.
One of Will's other nightmare scenarios was Keandre Lambert-Smith, the Penn State wide receiver, one of the only ones with any like body of work in terms of yards, touchdowns in that receiver room at Penn State. We mentioned Julian Fleming on the show last week. That would certainly play a role in this, but if Penn State but you mentioned before the show, like Penn State is going to be in the mix for a wide receiver. Is that with the idea that Lambert-Smith might be hitting the portal? Or is this, even if Lambert-Smith were staying, do you think Penn State's going to be looking for a wide receiver?
I think it's more anticipation of Lambert-Smith hitting the portal. He's a fifth-year guy, so probably not a crazy high NFL upside. He does have some ability. I don't know. How angry is Penn State going to see him to go? I'm not sure. Yeah, Tom's shaking his head like they're not going to miss him.
I'll just be blunt. Will can call it a nightmare scenario. I don't think anybody at Penn State views Keandre Lambert-Smith leaving as a nightmare scenario. I think they're just like, well, we'd rather have him, but we're okay if he goes.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Well, last time I saw somebody packing up their teammate's locker, that person went on to win the Heisman Trophy. All right. So
true. Yeah.
Well, maybe if Keandre Lambert-Smith transfers to LSU, he will have a great season.
That's one team that probably doesn't need any receiver.
Yeah, exactly.
Auburn needs a receiver. Mississippi State needs a receiver. Florida, I think, needs a receiver. Miami needs a receiver. Penn State. Michigan probably needs 2. I don't know if Oklahoma needs a receiver or not. Ohio State's pretty good. Among like the playoff contenders. That's
right.
Clemson doesn't really use the portal, so I really can't include them.
Although
I think their receivers are good this year.
I think this is just a time of year where, like, if you're just a decent wide receiver, man, you've got a ton of leverage if you enter that portal right now, because everybody wants one and they're looking for anybody that's productive. But like, I'm not trying to dog Keandre Lambert-Smith here, but he was on Penn State all last season, and we spent all last year talking about how Penn State doesn't have any receiver.
Right.
So it's like, okay, he'll have interest once he hits that portal. Plenty of teams will want him because they need the bodies to fill spots, but this isn't like a Malik Neighbors entering the portal or anything. This is just a guy. This is a wide receiver jag plus what we have here.
Any other portal buzz or like Danny, any sort of headlines or big picture movement that you're keeping your eye on? Again, transfer portal opens tomorrow on Tuesday. I thought it was the 15th until yesterday. So then 2 weeks, it will close on April 30th. So when we enter May, that's when we'll go ahead and lock our rosters and start to get our preseason work in. So Danny, what do you, any other like teams or storylines or anything that you're keeping your eye on this week?
I mean, I think we just kind of hit on ones that I'm very curious about. I'm just wondering if there's a bombshell, that we don't have any idea about. Is there a quarterback that's on the move that we had no idea? It's like, as I said, Kyron Drones, I was just kind of spitballing. It was nothing that I had heard. But you talk about, a player, a team, it'd be kind of, he didn't have the upside or hadn't laid down as much as Drake May, but he's had an impact on that program. And there are some, Rocco Becht was another one who's had an impact on Iowa State. And I totally get it. I understand where the money is and the opportunity. I just think this is kind of the new landscape that we're living in, where I cannot imagine being a coach trying to sleep for the next 2 weeks, trying to fend at those types of programs, outside the Big Ten or SEC, where maybe you can't match the money and you're just trying to hang on for dear life, like, please don't leave, or, try to get the money right. Caden Salter was another one. Liberty, going back to Liberty. Think they've got money, but he's been special. Like, the quarterbacks, obviously the big ones. But do we see any more flip-flops the way we saw with Caden Proctor? Like, I'm kind of bracing myself for anything for the next 2 weeks, which I think coaches are too.
This is why it's really important to make sure that your collective works with your staff.
Yeah.
Right. Understand, like, hey, like, if you're doing that, you're still not sleeping super easy, but you have a number you can go to. And then if somebody else just wants to blow that number out of the water, you say, hey man, appreciate it. Thanks. But like, we can't disrupt our entire budget just to pay you, because then we got to pay a bunch of scrubs at other spots. It would also probably mess up the locker room if we're spending 90% of our money on one player. I think most of these teams have a pretty good feel for who could leave, or at least like at what room they'll leave. What will cause a lot of movement is if some of these programs that are like, let's say like 35 to 70 in terms of like what jobs you would want, if they get their money right and they're plucking like a receiver or a DB off of like a Georgia, I'd be like, hey man, here's very low six figures and a starting role. Come play for us type thing. Like Mississippi State is pretty well known, needs some receivers. Like, that's not a good program, but like, if they got some money now to play with, which I bet you they got more than they had last year, because Ole Miss is clearly stepping up, and you look a little bit north, like, all right, we got to step it up. They're going to pluck some receivers from somebody's roster who fans like. They're like, oh, that guy's going to good. He was going to play for us. Like, not start for us, but he was in our plans. Well, now he's going to probably start for them. So that is what could upset the market as far as a lot more movement if there's more money in the market in the mid-level teams, because the top-level teams, they've had money.
I'm curious too to see what Bama does post spring, because there was a lot of conversation how they lost so many pieces. They're going to be really active in the portal. I don't know if they will be or not.
Yeah, they've got hey, you know what? Alabama had their spring game this past weekend. They're one of several we're going to hit, but we're going to start in the Big Ten, the one that was on big national television, and a lot less contact that I was expecting when I turned it on. We'll get into all that and more next.
The NWSL returns April 20th to CBS.
Back here on the Cover 3 podcast, let's take a tour through some of the big spring games from over the weekend. We will begin in the Big Ten with the Ohio State University, where, as I mentioned before the break, I sometimes, NCAA tournament, Masters, everything's going on. Sometimes details slip through the cracks. I didn't know we weren't tackling. Okay. I knew that at Alabama, we were going to have the funky scoring system. I'd been hip to that. I had to write a little preview for the Tides weekend, but I did not know the absence of contact that we were going to be having in Columbus. A lot of fans who were there, I have mentioned, I think Ohio State are the rock stars of college football heading into 2024. And what I saw was I guess we're still excited about the defense. I mean, Tom, where do you want to start unpacking Ohio State?
I recorded this on the DVR and I watched it, so I can actually speak on it. Yeah, it's hard to really come to any major conclusions based off the fact that, again, like you said, nobody was tackling. But I was surprised by what I saw from the quarterbacks, in that Devin Brown and Will Howard really did not look any different than each other. Like, I think performance-wise, and again, you're playing on air, but they both looked very similar and just as capable of running this offense. I think Will Howard had a slightly better day, but I also think that was helped by Buka making a great catch on a throw that I don't think was very good. But like Ryan Day didn't name a starter after the spring. I didn't expect him to, but I also get why he isn't, because we kind of we were spending last week talking about like Will Howard and Julian Sayin, and we were kind of like, at least I know I was anticipating Devin Brown's probably going to be hitting the transfer portal, on tomorrow now. I don't know if that's really the case anymore. I think that this is a genuine quarterback battle, which to me, like I wrote last week about Will Howard coming to Ohio State to help them improve their red zone offense. But I've been on the record plenty of times of never really understanding the move, because I never thought he was a giant upgrade over what they had. And now after what I saw in the spring, it's like, yeah, I'm still somewhat confused by the move. And I'm wondering how much he got, speaking of having your money right, I'm wondering how much Will Howard got, because I'm not entirely convinced he's that much better than Devin Brown. He's bigger, so that helps. But based on what I saw in the game, I think that could go into the fall unless one of them hits the portal. I think Keinholz and Sayin looked like very young and experienced players. They threw 3 interceptions in the game combined between them. So I don't think either one of them is going to be, really contending for the starting job in the fall. And then the one thing that I would be worried about, and again, they're facing a very good defense, but the offensive line looked a little spotty to me. Yeah. And I think that was a problem last year that they dealt with, particularly in like short yardage situations and in the red zone. And I didn't see a whole lot from that offensive line to make me think that, they're going to take a giant step forward. But again, pretty good defensive front they were going against. So it's hard to hold it against them too much.
Yeah, I mean, all of the reps with the first team O-line went to Howard and Brown. So I think that mostly tells you where it is. And look, Devin Brown, you don't get recruited by Ohio State unless you have some real upside. Like maybe he's a little bit better. We just haven't seen him healthy. Like how do we actually know? I think you take Will Howard because you're pretty sure what this guy is. Like not an NFL player, does run around a lot, fairly high floor for a team that probably is going to run the ball a little bit more this year and play good defense. I talked to a guy who went to Ohio State, not a media guy, and he works in personnel. He's like, dude, saying's the truth. So, I mean, I would expect Keinholz and Aaron Nolan to transfer, at this point. Like, I don't know if we're going to get a Brown Howard transfer out. Maybe we will. One of those guys, kind of doubt it, but they really like what Sayin has been doing there in Columbus. So I think Ohio State's got one. Like for the future, could Sayin actually play this year and start for them? I still am like doubtful of that, but who knows? Maybe. The other takeaway I had when I saw Sawyer and JTT on TV, I was like, "Oh God, those guys are huge!" Like it's and like grown ass men age wise. Right. Like it's a good reminder. Go watch the sideline interview. When, like fourth quarter when they had those dudes there, it's like, oh, those look like NFL players right now, but they're wearing Ohio State jerseys. And I think this defense is legit. It might have, it's going to be in the running for the best secondary in the country.
That's what I was going to say. Like we didn't see much from the wide receivers, but is the counter to that they boys had the clamps on them all afternoon.
You know what? I also like healthy. Like he looked nice. I thought he was one of the receivers who made some nice plays. I think that team's pretty loaded, man.
I am not taking away anything from most of these spring games. I just feel like, and I think that's by design.
Right.
I mean, I think the coaches know everybody's watching this. Like if you have a player who balls out, other coaches are watching this and being like, oh, is that guy available? Should I go, is that a young, talented player? I don't know. The defense I thought shined, but I thought it probably should have. With all the new quarterbacks, all the newness on the offensive side of the ball. But again, it's easy to shine when they're blowing guys dead or you're just thudding, like you're not really tackling. So, yeah, I think the quarterback, is interesting. What was our over-under? 2.5 of how many would be back or gone? I still think 2 are probably going to leave.
Right. Yeah. From the 5.
Yeah. Aaron Nolan still had the black stripe on his helmet. Julian Sayin had his removed.
So that was
like the scarlet letter,
right? Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Is the black stripe good or the black stripe bad?
Do you want that thing removed?
You want it off? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And Sayans is off. Nolan's is still on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, we see where this one's going. I get it. Tom, we were talking about Penn State earlier. I did not get a chance to really dig into Penn State much, but you got something on your mind?
Yeah, I didn't see any of this. I wasn't home much this weekend, but this is from reading and people I talked to who were there or whatever. A lot of players sat out, like a lot of key veterans did not really partake in the game. Like Nick Singleton didn't play and Katrin Allen didn't play, but apparently Cam Wallace and who's like their third string running back who they're pretty high on looked really good in the game. And this is just that's important because we've talked about how they don't have, Keandre Lambert-Smith's hitting the portal. We don't know who their top receiver are. The receivers did not look great in this game. Andy Kotelnicki's coming in, and his offense has typically been far more run heavy, when we've seen him at Kansas and Buffalo. So for Penn State, they're going to want like a deep stable of running backs. And I think Cam Wallace is a guy that they think could kind of take on a larger role this year. I talked about Lambert-Smith. Caden Saunders, I was told, played in the slot, did a very good job of getting open, didn't do a very good job of catching passes. So that's something that needs to be worked on. And apparently Abdul Carter has moved to defensive end, and he looks really, really good there. And also I was told the offensive line, considering the guys who are sitting out and then guys who they lost like Fashanu, looks pretty good for this point of the spring, considering all the turnover that they've had. So, some good, some bad.
I actually did get this watched right before the show. I knew I said I wouldn't, but I have had a little extra time this morning. So I do think that Kotelnicki's system is really nice if you have some offensive line deficiencies because it does keep defenses on their heels.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to just tee off on this thing. Two, I didn't see a lot of Kotelnicki's system in this game. And this is not me saying like Franklin has his thumb on the scale. I just don't think they're trying to show very much in the spring game. Like this was pretty vanilla looking. Three, and I didn't really see the wins a whole lot in the highlights because the highlights were mostly completed catches. But somebody was saying they had gusts of up to 40 miles an hour in this thing, which was like crazy windy. And it was on my Big Ten Twitter column. So like people were talking about the Penn State wind. So I don't know how much we should take away from the stats. Playing Abdul Carter at the end, God, it's probably an indication of just how damn well they recruit linebacker at Penn State. And like he's twitchy as hell. So having him rush off the edge, considering who you're losing to the draft, Chop, like that's potentially a nice little replacement. Also, I think Pavula is going to play some. I think his mobility and like I wouldn't be surprised if he like not starting, but like I wouldn't be surprised if he actually plays some.
Somebody in the tailgate said everyone loves him because he's from Central PA. I just love they're going to overlook any shortcomings for their homegrown boy. Root for him all the way. We'll ride with you. All right, let's go.
I know he can't throw. The chat's telling me he can't throw. I'm aware. Yes.
Okay.
I still think they'll find a way. You think Kansas backup can throw real well? Jason Bean? They still find a way to use him.
Led the Big 12 in passing efficiency.
Okay, fair.
All right, let's head on over to the Georgia Bulldogs, where I love when the Cover 3 podcast gets the setup and then the payoff, because one of the things that Bud had mentioned last week heading into the spring games was where are those disruptors up front, right? Like all we've heard is that the offensive line is doing well. All we've heard is that the offense is, beating up on the defense. And in that G-Day game, it looked like some of those more experienced guys who've been in the program for a little bit had a little bit of pride and decided that they wanted to make themselves known. So I think that was definitely an encouraging thing to take away. If you're Georgia, where also defensively, I think we don't have any answers in the secondary. We still have a lot of pieces, got to figure out how they all work together. Bud, what sort of stood out from the notebook for you?
I think I got this on Dogs 247, either that or on their podcast. Trying to remember where I got this from. Dogs 247 does a great job. But I know I read that Carson Beck said that basically like the defense knew exactly what was coming because of like all they ran was their really vanilla stuff.
Oh, and so they
would
show out, and even though they had the answers to the test.
Which is notable because the insider reports are that Georgia's offense has smoked their defense in the two close scrimmages. So, like, this was definitely much more defensive heavy than I anticipated. Dom Lovett, second year in the system, looks a lot more comfortable to me. they got Colby Young from Miami to be a big body X on the outside. And guess what? He lost a guy. And apparently in practice, that's been their like go-to contested catch guy, which is great for them to have. And they still have a lot of other nice weapons, but probably the early favorite to win the Joe Moore Award, I would think, this offensive line. So, and Beck looks solid. I mean,
yeah, a little bit
It
shaky.
should.
Yeah, yeah.
right, yeah.
It wasn't his best day, but I thought that the wide receivers in general looked deep. I mean, this you can get down to the fourth or fifth guy. You know, when you were talking earlier about a big program, you know, might end up seeing somebody get let loose. I have no idea if that would happen at Georgia, but Georgia appears to have enough wide receivers that one of those 35 to 70 outside the Super 2 teams, if you get Georgia's fourth wide receiver, that guy could be a starter for you.
Right.
So I'll be keeping an eye on that because Carson Beck plus loaded wide receiver room and offensive line that is ready to mow people down. That's an offense that's going to be really, really hard to stop this fall.
The other note is Urasek doesn't get there from Stanford, the tight end, until the summer. So, like, I don't know if he's going to start or Delp's going to start or it's going to be some kind of mix thereof. But we don't really know because he's not there yet.
I mean, we've seen a lot of Georgia Bulldogs football with 12 personnel out there.
Yeah.
So wouldn't be surprised if the two of them. Tom, Danny, anything Georgia related stand out from the weekend?
I've got a lot of Georgia fans mad at me, so I just want to say that Georgia's great and they're going to win the national title.
I think the running back room is deep. I wonder who's going to be, you know, there's been a lot of Trevor Etienne talk. He's had obviously an interesting offseason with some of the off the field stuff he's dealing with, but I don't think it's an issue for them at all. As far as the defense dominating, I mean, this is a lot like bowl season. Who wants it more? Like spring game. And if you've been told or all you've been hearing about is the offensive pieces and how good the offense is and how much the defense has to fix, you're going to come out with a chip on your shoulder. I mean, it's already been well documented how they do that as a team. I guarantee you some of those guys in the defensive meeting rooms have been pointing that out, saying, let's go show out.
Yes. Hey, look, glad to know that dog's in them. All right. You know, I'm glad you've got that competitive fire. That's what you need to build a championship team. So even if we might need to, sort of slow our reaction to seeing that defensive dominance, I would still be encouraged by them taking that personally. All right, Alabama. So Nick Saban was in the house. Good decision, bad decision to have Saban in the house.
I mean, who has the choice? No one except Saban.
That's
if
true.
I'm DeBoer, I'm kind of like, man, maybe
That's what I was like.
wait a little bit.
Really
Give me a little breathing room. I mean, he's got his own office there. I mean, I'm sure he's fine with it. He would never say anything, but I'm sure there's a piece of him that's like, really?
Because he spoke at the Denny Chimes, for like the team walk, and man, okay, all right. Remind us all about how you're not the guy who won 6 national championships in a 12-year run. By the time we finally got on the field, what do we think from Alabama? Defense?
I thought Milroe was better than his stat line.
Ooh, I didn't actually look at the stat line, but I saw a bunch of good deep passes.
Well, he was 3 of 9 for like 92, and one of those was a 52-yarder. So
Right.
It's hard to defend 3 of 9. But like after digging into some of what Kalen DeBoer did at Sioux Falls and at Eastern when he was there, I think this is going to work with Milroe. He's actually had a quarterback be his leading rusher or second leading rusher like 3 times in the last 15 or so years. So if he's got a guy who really can run, including like a 250-yard performance in a championship game. So he's not a guy that is just all pass. I think they'll feature Milroe's legs quite a bit. And I know Florida State's really happy with Roydell Williams, the back they got from Alabama. And that probably says something, too, about the level of player that was beating him out at Alabama. Because, like,
Jam Miller.
Those 2 young guys are studs. It's going to be a good run game there.
Yeah. Defense needs some help.
Yeah. They lost so much in the secondary.
Maybe they should hire Saban to be the defensive coordinator.
But they need they need pieces, right? They're not going to talk Caleb Downs into doing a Caden Proctor, all right? Right?
No.
All right.
No.
They need to find some quality secondary pieces. If there are any quality secondary pieces that can play at Alabama in the transfer portal, then Alabama needs to be in the sweepstakes for those, because this is that is a group that they were able to hold together a lot of their recruiting class, right?
Yeah.
Which means that there are talented players who they could throw into the fire. But I just think that playing Alabama's schedule, those young, talented players are going to end up, getting cooked a little bit if that's the case.
Austin Mack ran 4th team.
Yeah, I was disappointed.
4th team?
in that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
now
he
here's my
didn't play
question.
much.
Is that because are they trying to like make sure the other 2 guys don't transfer out? Like, are they playing depth chart games here? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if you run me 4th team, and I've been on this roster for a little while, I'm transferring out. Like Ja'Cory Brown at Miami ran 4th team, and I know Barry Jackson on Twitter said he basically expects him to go. I wonder if they're not playing depth chart games there, or if he's really just can't play in his 4th team.
Why would he bring him then?
Yeah.
Right,
Vibes.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's what makes me think that they're just playing depth chart games, and that Mac is probably not going to be 4th team.
To teach Jalen the playbook to help him out because he's familiar with it.
The old staff did like Lonergan when he came in. The Holstein kid, I basically, they came around to my opinion of him as soon as he got on campus, which was he can't play. But Simpson, we already talked about him with the transfer stuff.
Yeah. So I would say that your relationship as Kalen DeBoer with Austin Mack is strong enough that you can probably call him into your office and say, hey man, here's the deal. We need to get a good look at, or we need to, figure out what's going to happen with these other 2 guys. It's going to be Jalen's team. Then it can be yours. Right. So maybe that's what's going on right there. But that definitely, I would say overall, Kalen DeBoer gets to see what's working well and gets to see what needs some help. Speaking of what's working well and what needs some help, I don't know what the future is going to be for Billy Napier in 2024, but man, I think he's got 2 good quarterbacks there in Gainesville. Are there enough other pieces? We'll get into the Gators and more next.
We need your sports news anywhere.
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
Oh, before we jump to Florida, let's finish out Alabama. Kalen DeBoer said that he told Mike Rodak of Bama 247, Hale, who has a knee, will probably miss the majority, if not all, of the regular season. So I think we can firmly put Alabama in the needs a receiver transfer category. Jeremy Bernard was pretty heavily featured and targeted in that game, but I would expect.
I was going to say, isn't Bernard the recipient of 7 of Milroe's 9 pass attempts?
Yeah, he's a guy that they trust to be there.
They got you got what? Kobe Prentice, Kendrick Law. There's some names there. This last little run of Alabama wide receivers, I mean, that hadn't exactly all worked out after they were just, hit for about a 4 to 5 year run. Now they're all ending up at TCU, and
this offensive staff is better than the last offensive staff. I don't know what the whole coaching staff is, but I definitely think Alabama has upgraded on its offensive staff. I think eventually Saban was running out of guys to hire, which is crazy to say, but it happens to all the greats. Bowden at the end, ran out of guys that he knew he could trust and hire.
Ron Zook. Congrats to Devontae Smith for the contract extension. Speaking of Alabama receivers.
You got it yesterday?
Today.
Yeah. I think that's basically the end of the run. Because ever since then, the last 3 seasons, you've been trying to talk yourself into glimmers of Ja'Cory Brooks. You've been just sort of looking at individual plays, maybe if Kobe Prentice does what he did in that one game, all the other games he could be great. And it just hasn't exactly played out. So we'll keep an eye on that. DK, the Gators, DJ Lagway, true freshman early enrollee, physical freak, coming out with highlights,
slanging it,
giving the people what they want. What do you make of this team that again has these shiny objects? I just don't think any of us right now have enough confidence in the full picture and the schedule and being able to see a positive outcome at the end of this.
You can see why he was a highly touted guy coming out. You see the raw potential. I just go back to don't be swayed by a spring game, but I think you should be excited if you're a Gator fan, like about what the future holds, but like, let's not imagine them competing for an SEC championship right now either. But I do think there was clearly, you saw evidence of what it is. And I think it's actually the quarterback room. You mentioned it coming in, like with Graham Mertz being there to be some stability. You can sprinkle in Lagway and get him some reps and let him play some. And you have a vet who's not going to be intimidated, not going to leave anywhere. So I'd expect them to both play this season.
I agree.
If I'm Napier, I'm absolutely playing Lagway, like early and often.
Are you playing
like a NFL coach who's I'm going to save my job by going with the young guy? Yeah.
No, not starting him, but like I am rotating him in a lot, like Florida did with Tebow when they had Chris Leak. He clearly likes Billy Napier. His quarterback coach likes Billy Napier. Like there's a relationship there. If I'm Napier, like Lagway is part of my job security. If I go 6-6, but my young quarterback has some real flashes, that helps me a lot.
I mean, that is a way this ends, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Everybody's trying to pencil Billy Napier into being fired the same way we did with Neil Brown. He made us all eat our words. And I don't know if.
But Neil Brown didn't have to play the schedule Florida has to play this year.
Fair.
I don't know that Napier is absolutely fired unless they make a move on the AD. Like, I don't think they're going to let that AD make another football hire. So to me, like there's an order of operations thing here. They did only have 10 men on the field on special teams. The team that for most of the year led.
But it's the spring. This is when you work those kinks out.
Oh gosh!
Did they lead the nation in penalties last year?
For most of the year, they were leading the nation in both short yardage penalty EPA, so like literally jumping off sides and false starting, and then also special teams penalty EPA.
Just absolute the dumbass penalty.
Great.
Yeah, they were great at.
Yeah, just the can you count? Okay, like can you count the number of guys on the field? Can you count to 3 if the snap counts 3? Or Florida's another team that I think needs a big outside receiver. So Wilson is a stud. I think they're going to try to, if you watch it, every play has like a boatload of window dressing. They're just trying to find ways to get the ball in his hands. When I saw Billy Napier at the coaching clinic, he was really happy that they had quote unquote real tackles this year. They thought as far as tackle bodies. So we'll see how that works out. I didn't see a lot of improvement from the defense. I know 2 former Florida transfers made ESPN's top 10 pass rusher list. Antoine Powell-Ryland at Virginia Tech, and then also number 1, the guy who transferred to Ole Miss.
Prince to you?
Yes. Yeah. So we'll see how their pass rush is. I do think getting Chimere DK from Wisconsin is a nice get for Mertz because they obviously know each other. But you do need a guy who can win some contested balls on the outside. So I would expect Florida to be pursuing a big X because I don't think Jackson's that guy. But overall, I think if you're a Florida fan, you had to be pretty happy with what you saw overall, right? Kind of.
Listen, Jake Winterman does an amazing job for CBS Sports HQ, but he will gladly sign up to count the men on the field for your team, Billy. I know. just let Jake be down there, and his only job is to count people on special teams, and he will do that so well. Okay, he will do it better than whoever on your staff is out there getting it done. Shout out to Jake. I'm sure he's already got a polo that he'll fit right in with the rest of the staffers.
I mean, if he was on that staff, would they notice he was on that staff? Did you just throw the polo on, walk in, act like you've been there before?
Absolutely, he's a fit guy, so I could see him as a college football staffer.
Yeah,
he'd blend right in like Connor Stallions did at Central Michigan. All right. What about LSU? I did not get my eyes on LSU, but I'll let you take lead here. What stood out?
Nuss looked pretty damn good. O-line is very good. LSU definitely needs to go to the portal for some defensive linemen. I anticipate that they will, and will do so soon. Daniels, the Liberty receiver, ran with the second team, which surprised me because he was one of the top receivers in the portal. So that's one to monitor there. Like I assume that's like a learning the offense type thing, and maybe a like play depth chart games type thing.
I mean, I could also see that being a situation where if you think about the kind of offense Brian Kelly runs compared to what he was running at Liberty, you might actually have to, it's not just run this route. There's actually like options you have to make by reading the defense. It's more pro stylish.
I need to go check Go247 on this because I don't know exactly who was playing DB for them. However, if those were the starters, either LSU's DBs still really suck, or LSU is having like zero drop off at receiver and it's just going to kill everybody this year. So take your pick. But I know Kelly said that their really only focus in the portal was on D tackle. I would maybe also take a look at some DBs because those guys were not good.
And they just made the change at defensive coordinator too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
my man Dusty was on the call for that one. He was raving about Nuss. I mean, I think that and the staff loves him. I think they've loved him for a while.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, they've liked him, which is, it's all kind of culminated in this. They're believing in him, and he thought he was pretty flawless with the execution. He should be familiar with the system. Defense still has a ways to go.
Chris Hilton did have a big drop. That's kind of been an issue for him, like for a long while. So hopefully he can get that fixed.
So LSU's offense is going to light the world on fire. Defense will still be playing Matador. Love it. Coaching changes, players off to the NFL. We can keep our personalities the same. That's good. That's good for me. What do we make of the Canes? Right. First look at Cam Ward. What do we think?
I thought he looked really good. I mean, he was the best quarterback available in the portal this offseason to me. As far as like instant impact, like long-term upside, we can kind of debate that. Like he looked really comfortable running that system. It's an air raid system, which is very similar to what he's run for like 3 or 4 years. He's an older guy. I thought he looked really good. They didn't have Maui Noah at tackle, and they didn't have Maui Noah at linebacker. They also didn't have 2 of their better defensive linemen. I thought they would get a little bit better push in the run game with the offensive line. There are some people that think that offensive line is better this year. There are a couple people also who are like, I don't know. Like Matt Lee is one of the best center prospects in the draft and was kind of the heart and soul of that offensive line. They did not play Lou Cristobal with the starters, at least not much. So I'm guessing that was kind of a motivational tactic when when Mario's son was running first team for a little bit of the spring, just kind of like, hey guys, we will put the guy here who shows up on time. Overall, I think if you're a Canes fan, you got to be like, I think you should be happy that the good is as good as you thought it was going to be. Also, I think even if you don't think Ward's a superstar, the fact that Van Dyke is in an actual quarterback battle apparently at Wisconsin is got to be telling you a little bit like, okay, maybe Van Dyke had real problems independent of whatever the coaching staff had, and Ward is a pretty clear upgrade there. DB though, Miami might need a couple. That didn't look like Miami quality DBs when Miami's defense is good. They didn't impress.
I don't know if Van Dyke's in a quarterback battle. That might be coaching.
Have you heard good stuff? I don't know. Okay. Ooh. Have you heard good stuff out of there?
I've heard from some that they're pretty high on Tyler Van Dyke.
Okay. That's actually interesting to watch then.
We've got a Badger off.
Source battle.
Oh. Who's getting led astray? Who's getting the candy? Let's see.
Oh, it's Mario's nephew, not his son. Apologies.
All good.
Yeah.
It's like the Raiola situation. I don't know if it's the dad or the uncle on staff. I always forget.
Donovan's the uncle, right?
The uncle's on staff. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
So Elijah Lofton, by the way, is a name to know.
Elijah Lofton.
Like nice kind of H-back style tight end for Miami, riser in the recruiting rankings last year. He's probably their best running back right now because all their running backs are hurt. They're going to be in the portal. I think Miami will get Martinez or somebody else to jump in at this point. But like he played running back in practice and in the games. Like he's that athletic, so they're really high on him. And they need a big-bodied receiver on the outside too.
So I was going to say Miami and Ole Miss are where we're looking at for running backs, right?
Miami needs a back for sure. Ole Miss, I think, would like to take a back, especially after what's his name got hurt and he's probably done for the year. A couple other teams need a back.
Talk to somebody familiar with Miami who's pretty confident they'll have a back soon.
Yeah.
Do y'all think it's going to be Damian Martinez?
Nope.
Oh.
Does the first or last name start with an O?
No
Okay.
comment.
Heard the same rumor. Okay. Yeah. Chip, have you heard this rumor?
I have. Are you talking about like there's different kinds of meats that you can have? Like you could have turkey or you could have.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
No, I didn't ask Danny about this.
Yeah. Things could get dicey. Things could get very dicey. We'll see. If you were a 1,000-yard running back, there could be options for you out there. If you were a 1,000-yard running back. Yeah, possibly. By the way, speaking of Ole Miss, I don't know. I usually ride for Lane, but I wasn't really into it.
What happened? What was the spring game?
No football. Like if you wanted football, good luck.
Yeah, it was an elementary school field day. I mean, they might as well have had the parachute with the little like popcorn balls popping up. You had Joey Chestnut eating hot dogs. You had
funnel cakes,
tug of war races
with the sorority girls. Like it's great for recruiting, I guess. Yeah. Bring the sorority girls out, get everything else. It's one big fun party. Did you read our John Talty's article on that? I guess he was there. And
I haven't read it yet, but it was a larger commentary on spring games in general, right?
By design, to not give anybody, not let them shop your talent. Why would I let them go on TV and showcase what they can do? I'm going to save those for closed practices.
Sounds like paranoia. Like the coach who's always scouting everybody else's team and building his through the portal is suddenly paranoid everybody's going to come take his.
Maybe so.
The only problem with that, or go ahead, Danny. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, to me, I didn't have that thought going into the weekend. I thought, oh, this is a Lane thing. Building the brand.
Right.
Of we're the fun ones. We're going to have a ton of fun. We're going to get our fan base enthusiastic. We've got a lot. Like, it's just, to me, it felt more like, let's continue to build my brand and Ole Miss's brand. I did not think that this was some, plot to keep people from seeing his talent.
I don't think it works everywhere. I think you put folks together in the Grove. It's a big party. Like they're looking forward to that. They have crazy excitement about this particular team. You take an average Ole Miss team, which is like fighting to make a bowl, typically in our lifetimes at least, right? And you're not crazy excited about the upcoming season. I don't think people show up to watch this. Like I understand you want to limit people's exposure on national TV, but these kids also just screen record their practice footage. So they have it all and their agents have it all. Like this idea that not doing a spring game is going to keep you from being seen by other schools it's not nothing, but it's definitely not the whole story. I think there's a lot of places that they would try this and it wouldn't work. Like a lot of fans, I think, do come because they want to see a preview of next year's team. They've had 4 months without football and they would like to see, some football and hopefully feel better about this upcoming year than they did last year. So I don't know this idea is going to take over. Like I bet maybe some people will try it, but I think it'll actually flop at a lot of places.
Matt Rule, Nebraska already did a dunk contest, right? They just didn't do it on the football field during the spring football game.
Spring game, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, other teams have done fun things before. This just felt like it was over the top. Where I'm with Chip, it just felt like a little too much over the top. Then it feels like an absolute circus.
It's like a Midnight Madness event for football, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a little bit of 7-on-7, but like
with no pads.
No pads, yeah.
50-yard field, yeah.
Is Ole Miss soft?
Hey, that baby blue. Tom Fernelli's always said that baby blue is going to be impossible to win a championship. You need a harder color,
Mm-hmm.
at least for the game of football. Let's do like scatter shot from anywhere else. Bud, where do you, before we get out of here, any other thoughts from the weekend?
Yeah, welcome back, Cam Rising.
Hey,
Like they look good to me. That was impressive. Dorian Singer, who was a stud for Arizona, transferred to USC, kind of got lost in the wash there, is now at Utah, and he was one of the primary recipients. Brent Keithy's back. He was non-contact, but he still looked pretty good running around, caught a good number of balls and had some targets, and Money Parks is still there. Man, if they get actual prime Cam Rising, they're the Big 12 favorite for me, especially if Arizona loses something.
Coaching and QB.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Virginia Tech spring game. I haven't gotten my eyes on it yet.
Didn't watch it yet.
Yeah, there's 40 spring games over the weekend. We tried to hit the best we can. I think that those notes are probably going to end up getting picked up and cycled into summer school, picked up and cycled into a lot of our off-season conversations, as we inch closer to win totals along that time.
Summer school will be coming out. I will be recording the first one a week after the portal closes. Because even though the portal closes for entries, there's still a lot of kids out there who will be deciding where they're going to go. So I kind of want to make sure we have some finality there before we record those episodes.
That's awesome.
UCF note?
Oh yeah, UCF.
RJ Harvey didn't play. One of the best running backs in the country. It makes a lot of sense. We know what he is. KJ Jefferson only, I believe, had 2 design rushes and got him out of there. That's a huge part of his game. So I don't have Hudson didn't play either. So I don't have a whole lot of takeaways on what the offense will be. I bet you they're going to run KJ a lot and then throw play action off it, though, and also hand the ball to RJ Harvey a lot.
I mean, that's a battering ram 1-2 combination because RJ Harvey runs angry and strong.
They're kind of excited about some of the defensive linemen they have, though. I will say that.
Oh, interesting. Nice.
Yeah, you could do a lot worse than a growing up defensive line and KJ Jefferson, revenge tour final season. Taylor Green looked good. You want to hit Arkansas real quick?
Yeah.
Did you guys watch?
No, I haven't gotten to see it yet.
Man, I'm ever since Petrino had Vic, he's been really focused. He's talked about this a couple times on doing really creative mobile quarterback stuff. He did some with Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think my printer is finally deciding to work. Wow. Sorry for you guys hearing that in the background. I thought the run game looked pretty good. Passing, okay. Arkansas's second team defense. Please stay healthy, first team defense. we thought Miami's tackling was bad. Some of that Arkansas second team tackling was not the best. But I think they'll score a little bit as long as they keep this group together. It's Petrino and a quarterback who he seems to like.
Yeah, Taylor Green came over from Boise State, and when we were talking about it, we were like, look, Taylor Green at his best is a very, very good quarterback capable of being successful at Arkansas. Consistency across his whole body of work was an issue. So great to know that the fit seems to be good with Petrino.
I worry about his health.
Taylor Green's health?
Yeah, KJ Jefferson was a brick house. He was built. Taylor Green's taller, skinnier. I don't know if he's running through people the way that KJ Jefferson was. But if he can, he's pretty special.
Yeah.
Tantalizing.
Okay, sorry, reading some of the chat. I would caution y'all that not all of these plans to enter the transfer tweets are going to come to fruition. Many times it actually is just leverage to try to speed up the process against the collective. So we don't actually know that Arkansas's offensive lineman is going to enter the portal. We'll see if he does. Just reading the chat here. Chip, did you watch UNC?
Oh no, it's this. So they had this was another one, much like is the portal open on the 15th or the 16th. So it was a practice last Saturday that you could see on ACC Network. There is a spring game, but it's this Saturday and it's not on TV.
North Carolina ain't scheduling its spring game during the Masters. Come on.
Smart.
I apologize to Jeremy. I'm sure he's immensely frustrated with me, but I had some of my details mixed up right there. So we'll see. The North Carolina spring game will be this Saturday, the 20th. It will not be on television. what they had on ACC Network was more organized practice. Let the ACC Network in, and
but they did they kind of get 2-for-1 special, right?
Yeah.
Do you think
Yeah,
Marion
a little
Hampton
bonus.
will be a part of it?
We'll see. Big week.
He's pretty good.
Big week. I don't know how the collective is organized, but Jimmy's Seafood, somebody come on down.
There's a lot of ramen.
We got some competition. So we'll see how it goes. Again, transfer portal opening up on Tuesday. Now we're going to continue to follow it over the course of the next 2 weeks here on the Cover 3 podcast. Wednesday, some of the biggest names, sort of portal buzz in almost every single show over the next 2 weeks until we get to the end of the month. And as Bud mentioned, finally start to lock down our rosters for the 2024 season. So come join us 11 a.m. on Wednesday for all the latest from the transfer portal. And you can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fernell. You can follow him at Danny Cannell. You can follow him at Bud Elliott 3. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.